boundaries versus guidelines. And one of the biggest issues that I find is that in this new age space that we're in, where everyone thinks that they're a therapist, there's all this conversation around boundaries, which is important. Don't get me wrong, super key. But a lot of the issues that most of us are facing are not necessarily boundary issues where our boundaries are constantly being tested or pushed against or violated. But it's really about guidelines. Hello, beautiful people. I hope all is well. Welcome back to my channel. So you guys know that every Monday I deliver to you what you need in order to move down the aisle. And you know what aisle I'm talking about? The wedding aisle. But before we get to the aisle, there are so many steps that we have to take around dating, around relationships. And more specifically, today we are talking about boundaries versus guidelines. And one of the biggest issues that I find is that in this new age space that we're in, where everyone thinks that they're a therapist, there's all this conversation around boundaries, which is important. Don't get me wrong, super key. But a lot of the issues that most of us are facing are not necessarily boundary issues where our boundaries are constantly being tested or pushed against or violated. But it's really about guidelines that are not being established in advance. So what does that look like? That looks like before we worry about someone violating a boundary, have you established guidelines for them from the beginning, from the inception of when the two of you met in a romantic way, right? So even if this is someone that you knew from the past, now that we understand that this is a romantic thing, have you established what your guidelines are? Guidelines are going to guide someone, right? So I want you to think about bowling or something of the sort, right? And then you know how they have those guards up and then you go bowling and then it kind of helps the ball kind of stay in the bowling ball. Yeah, the bowling ball stay in the middle. That's the idea behind a guideline, right? A boundary, I want you to think about on a map. Like you are going to get your car checked if you're driving through Mexico. If you are a felon, you can't get into Canada. That is a hard line that's super clear that differentiates between the right side and the wrong side, the side that you should be on and the side that you shouldn't be on versus a guideline, which is going to steer you in the right direction. So what are some of the guidelines that you should be establishing as a single woman as you date before you get down the aisle? Because again, we have to get through dating, commit a relationship, engagement, then marriage. And all of us talk about, I want to be married, but we're not even going outside on dates. I want to be married, but we're not willing to go on dating apps. I want to be married, but we're not comfortable being clear about our guidelines and our boundaries. I want to be married, but we don't have our finances in order. These are the things, these are the steps that I'm going to be teaching you every Monday so that you can get to the greater goal, which is down the aisle with the partner you deserve, creating the partnership that you want for the rest of your life. Because even walking down the aisle is just the beginning, right? You still need to establish a life with this person in the long haul. So let's go back to the guidelines. The guidelines are going to help people know how much left or how much right they're allowed to go with you before you need to put your foot down and say, this is unacceptable, I will not accept. We don't want it to get that far. Ideally, we want to establish these guidelines in a way that folks can kind of dismiss themselves because they see the direction that this is going in. They see that you don't play games. They see that you will respectfully decline. They see that you will not establish foolishness before you have to get loud, before you have to get quote unquote aggressive. And then there's all this conversation about women being overly aggressive, about women being masculine. So fine, let's avoid all of that by establishing your guidelines. So let's talk about what that looks like early on in the dating phase. If a gentleman were to ask you out on a date and he has a plan without conferring with you what that plan is. So, hey, Allison, I know you mentioned you were available on Friday. I'm so excited to take you to this new spot. It's a steakhouse. You'll love it. And let's say Allison doesn't like steak. She's not a fan, don't want to go there, maybe heard poor reviews, whatever that looks like. We're not going to say, I don't appreciate the fact that you didn't even ask me first about where I want to eat and I don't even eat steak, right? Like, we don't need to be overly aggressive. They say that's a problem, fine. So we'll scale it back. And instead, we are going to create guidelines. And that guideline looks like, I am so excited to go out with you and to finally connect, right? That's part one of the guideline. The middle part 2, is going to be, but I did hear about this really cool Mexican place on 7th, or if you're into seafood, there's a place on Maine that I'd like to try, right? Looking forward to seeing you. That's what we call the sandwich. You hear about it, the corporate sandwich. You've heard about it in education. It's the same idea with dating. You want your message to be clear. However, you never want to come across as aggressive or being a negative Nancy or jaded or all the kind of stuff that they like to attach to women, right? So cool. I was going to say two can play that game, but this is not a game, right? You're still being forthcoming. You're still being your authentic self. This is not you being manipulative. However, you are being strategic in the way that you present the information. So I'm going to give you an education example because I never worked in corporate, but I worked in education for, like 15 years. So let me give it to you. Especially if you're a parent, you will appreciate what this looks like. So it looks like Jimmy is misbehaving in class. The teacher calls Jimmy's mom and dad to the school. Mom and dad sit down at the desk. The teacher is going to say, Jimmy is full of energy, right? This is the sandwich, starting with the positive. Jimmy is full of energy. Then we get to the meat, which is in the middle, the point that the teacher actually wants to make, but understands that if she says it straight up and down, it may not be received well. And at the end of the day, what does she want from Jimmy? For him to chill the F out. So going aggressive and saying, your son is, we're not going to do that. So Jimmy is full of energy. However, what I've noticed is that when he is exuding all of that energy, he tends to get off track and he distracts others. But more importantly, bring it back to his needs. More importantly, he's distracting himself and he's not getting the quality of education. Smile. He's not getting the quality of education that I know that he could get if he were more focused. So, mom, dad, let's create a plan, third part of the sandwich. Let's create a plan as to how we can get him more focused so that he is going to show up as his best self every day. In education, they call it the sandwich. I started with a positive. Jimmy has all this great energy, right? So in a sandwich, that's like a piece of bread. Soft. Then I went to the middle, hard, the meat, what I really want to say. However, this issue is negatively impacting him. Then we end with another piece of bread, the last part of the sandwich, which is, but let's come up with a plan as to how we can move forward. You're going to use that in life. I use that with my husband as a married couple, right? Because I'm not going to come and tell him what we got to do because I got the resolution. But here's an issue that I'm seeing. This is a good thing. This is the issue that I'm seeing. Let's create a plan. So I'm so excited to go out on this date with you, James. I'm really looking forward to connecting with you. I'm so excited that we finally could find some time. Whatever that looks like, a compliment, which you mean, because you are looking forward to seeing him. This is not manipulation. These are not lies. We're not playing games. We are interested. And guess what? There are so many gentlemen who would appreciate hearing from you that you want to see them, because we have been socialized as women that we should be playing coy. We should be playing hard to get. We don't play. Playing coy, playing hard to get. We don't play games, right? That's not what we should be doing as adults. So instead, we're not lying, we're telling the truth. And I'm sure that guys would like to hear every once in a while that they are desirable, that we want to spend time with them. Many of them feel like, and maybe legitimately or illegitimately, we can get into that in the comments, that they're being used for an experience, a meal. So I am excited. I do want to see, what was his name? James. I do want to see James. I do want to meet with him. I do want to get to know him. I do want to connect with him. I am glad that he and I have found some time to get together. None of those things are lies. They're all the truth. However, of course, I'm using it strategically to get to my main point, which is I don't want the steak. So that's going to get into something along the lines of the example I already gave. I don't know if you've heard there's a new Mexican place on, or options, or there's a seafood place I've been really looking forward to. Would you be interested in trying one of those? Looking forward to seeing you on Saturday. That is so powerful because, again, it's not a lie. It's not manipulative. I am letting you know a bit on the low, right? Like, not subconsciously, but not 100%. I don't want steak. Why are you taking me to go get steak? right? Like how my classic Brooklyn, my classic West Indian straight shooter. No, that's not sexy. Let's just be honest. It's not sexy, right? So I'm not going to be that aggressive, but I'm still going to get my point of I don't want that. And so here are some alternatives of what I think would be a good fit. Does that make sense? And again, not overly aggressive and creating guidelines of, and perhaps now, the next time, James, I always forget his name. The next time James wants to take me on a date, he might consider asking me what I like to eat first, right? Does that make sense? These are the guidelines. You can guide people in the right direction. And let me tell you, what's so beautiful about guidelines is that it lets you know that you're not the problem if things don't go in the right direction. So if James texts me back, or James calls me and said, you know what, forget it. Y'all females, oh Lord. Can I take a note on females? Can I tell y'all that on Instagram, you can go in your settings and you can put which words are not allowed to be. I don't know if y'all know this. You can actually type out in your settings which words are not allowed to be posted in your comments. So if someone were to post a word that you don't like, you're against, whatever it is, in a full paragraph, 4-page letter Aaliyah style comment, it will not post. It will fail. And females, I don't have the B word, I don't have the N word, I don't have the F word. I have females because I already know the types of people who write the word and call women females. I already know what they're on, and we're not going to have a valuable conversation. Side note. So let's say that James doesn't take this well, even though I was respectful, it was cordial, I gave other suggestions, potentially suggestions that he might enjoy more or might even be cheaper for him, and he didn't take it well. You females always trying to tell us and dictate to us. So the beautiful thing is I know that I came from a place of respect, and so if he reacts that way, thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being unreasonable. Thank you for being nasty. Thank you for being rude, because I can only imagine if I actually did go out on that date with James, if he responded that way, it would have been extremely unenjoyable. Or eventually, even if he put up a mask, I know we all like to pretend everybody's a narcissist, everybody's a sociopath, everybody has this skill and this capability to pretend that they are something that they are not for years and years. Absolutely not. Most people, and I say this with all due respect, don't have the intelligence to pretend to be someone that they are not for too dang long. Or the cracks are clearly there, the red flags are clearly there, and we choose to ignore them, and then we're magically surprised when things don't work out in our favor. Let me give you an example. So just today in my group coaching program, The Partner You Deserve, you guys know that I work with busy professional women to move them from frustrated with dating to happily married. So 2 of my clients in the group coaching program literally had the same story. So the point that we're at now in our coaching program, they're clear on exactly what they want from a partner and a partnership. They're clear on what questions to ask. They know they're vetting. And so now the stuff is working. The nature of the game is that you're going to meet people who are inappropriate matches. The nature of the game is that you're going to come across folks who are not good people. So either not good people or people who are inappropriate. It's not a good fit for you. And that's okay. The point is that we want to be able to sift through that as early as humanly possible. Let's talk about it. So these ladies through the program, they're halfway through, so they've already learned what they want, what they don't want, what it looks like, what questions to ask, what behaviors to pay attention to assess if a gentleman's a good fit. So one of them told the story of she went on a date with a gentleman. So they were having conversation, things were going well. They were on the date, things were going well, right? He made a comment right now, even though it was literally hours ago. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he made a comment. I think it was about his name. There was some joke between the 2 of them that like his name on the app was one thing, and then when he finally got on the phone with her, it was something else, which I encourage that. I understand that people don't feel safe online, so using a middle name or a nickname that you use in life is not the end of the world, right? But of course, as soon as you connect with someone, you should be correcting it. So he corrected it early. That was not the concern, okay? They had an ongoing joke about it. He corrected it like on their first phone call, but now they're face to face, so then the joke comes back up, right? Okay, good. So now she jokingly says like, oh, but I don't even know what your name is. Let me see some ID. So he hands over the ID. On the ID, it shows that the gentleman is 47 years old. Can you guess how old he said that he was when they connected before that first date? 39. 39, an 8-year age gap. Now, Once she saw that, what did she do? She followed the instructions of the group, which is we have to think of our safety. You respectfully finish out the date, right? And then you give that little half brother hug, you get in your car and you drive off. And that's the end of it. We are not reconsidering. We're not giving second chances. Why? Because why did this gentleman lie to her? There was no reason whatsoever. I'll tell you what he said, and I'll tell you that is a classic dating app lie. He said, I didn't create my profile. Someone else did it for me. And so that's why I think I've heard an assistant like 3 times, same lie. My assistant created it for me. My sister created it for me. Somebody created the profile, and that's why the age is wrong. Why haven't you corrected it, sir? And if you can't correct it for whatever reason, I know like sometimes after you do the verification, you might not be able to edit some key information like gender or this, that, and the other. If that's the case, I've seen people type in their bios, I am in bold, 45, blah, blah, blah. And even if you didn't want to do all that, because maybe it just was awkward to you in terms of on your profile, then there's no reason whatsoever that you couldn't have very simply said, hi, Angela. It's a pleasure to connect with you. By the way, there's an error on my profile. Let me share. Can I tell you that she would not have minded? She was in her late 30s. She would not have minded dating a gentleman who's 47. However, because he lied to her, misrepresented who he was, wasn't even sharp enough to keep up with the lie by showing her the ID, this is what got him in trouble, which is what ended their courtship. And I encourage it, and I love it, and I support it. Because these are these red flags that people talk about. They're usually not like outrageously blaring. They're normally not. However, you need to pay attention. If someone lied to you early in the game, you need to exit stage left. These are the guidelines that you are establishing for your life. These are the guidelines that you are establishing for other people. All right, folks, I hope that you found this valuable. I hope that you begin to institute guidelines so that you don't have to worry about establishing hard boundaries. And this will definitely guide you and support you towards getting down the aisle with the partner that you deserve. If you are interested in working with me, make sure that you click in the description, in the comments, and I'm trying to still figure out this YouTube thing. Click wherever there's something that's clickable so that we can get on a consultation call so that you can join me and 250 plus women and 1 man that I have successfully been able to move from frustrated with dating to happily married. It is Aligned with Allison, and it has been a pleasure.